Good afternoon, everybody. It's 4 minutes past midday. So here we all are. Can I get a hello from everybody on the chat saying whether you can hear us?
Yes, we can. Fernando, very well.
And the audio? Yes, I need a few hellos. You hear me. This is fantastic. This is absolutely awesome. Do you guys know that there's 450 of you from all over Europe here coming to listen to little us telling you about how great the careers are? Now, I'm going to let my panelists introduce themselves. You may have seen Kun in the first session this morning. He's going to repeat a few of the elements he said as well. We're here to spend the next 45 minutes with you, during which time we'll be able to answer questions. This is a smaller session with less panelists. We will make an effort to actually picking up some of these questions. When the session is finished, I want to do this already so that you guys remember. At the top is an arrow there next to live stream, or maybe it's on that side in your screen, depends how you set it up. So leave this and you go back to the hall. You will have seen that every booth has a slightly different color banner. Banners are organized by clusters. This helps you navigate. You can join as many chat booths or coffee corners as you want. The system will pull you out automatically. If you get pulled out of here because you were in a queue, fear not. You can come back into the live stream. So the live stream is being recorded, so we will share takeaway notes. But if you really must see Oscar-winning performances, I recommend you relog back in and actually join us to actually listen to what we have to do. Questions and answers, we'll do our best to try. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce both Christina, Adelina, and Kun. And can I have a few kind words from everybody? This is their first time, so be gentle with them. Post questions. If you want the question answered by anybody, post it. If you want a question asked by somebody specifically, do the @ and their first name. We will try to answer them. Don't be offended if we don't. Without further ado, this is the cluster for legal and judicial affairs. I will let Kun start because he needs to be somewhere else after a while, and it's just going to be the three of us talking to you guys. Over to you, Kun.
Very well. Thanks a lot, Fernando, for this introduction, and welcome everybody indeed. Good afternoon to all of you out there. This is a very nice day. And you have the real opportunity to wander around in these different booths and clusters to get to see if you fit in any of the organizations that are present today. We are 25, as you know, different organizations, institutions, and agencies. And in this session here, we are concentrating on legal and judicial jobs. And that's why we have Christina from the court and Adelina from, no, vice versa, Adelina from the court and Christina from the prosecutor's office with us today. A quick general word from me. So I represent the European Personnel Selection Office, and we run competitions. That's how we call our selection procedures, to select staff for the different institutions and bodies. And of course, we also need many lawyers, specifically in this session, of course. And you may want to know that after the summer, we will publish what we call the Generalist AD5 competition, terminology which is known to some of you. If you don't know what it means this is an entry-level opportunity which is open to everybody who has at least a university bachelor's degree in any field, law and also other fields. Everybody goes through the same selection system, and at the end, the successful candidates can be offered jobs, of course, in line with their profile. For instance, in the fields of law, if you're listening into this one, probably you have a degree in law, or you're maybe studying law or the like. I will now have to leave you. I will answer one question which I saw popping up in the chats here. There was a question about a Luxembourg-based competition. We are thinking about putting out or publishing a Luxembourg-based competition. This does not mean that it is only open to Luxembourgish nationals. No, it means that the jobs will be based in services in Luxembourg, right? For instance, the Court of Justice is based in Luxembourg, and that's why we will publish a competition for jobs based in Luxembourg, because sometimes we have difficulties to try and attract some kind of profiles to this location of work. I will leave you now in the good hands of both Christina and Adelina, and of course moderated by Fernando. I'll go back to my booth, so if you want to speak to me about EU careers, you can go back there, and I'll be back for the next cluster in an hour or so. Thanks you and enjoy. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kun. Have fun. All right. Now, I think we're going to take this, Luxembourg, what your organizations do, what they offer, what you're looking for. let's get on with it. Why don't we start with introductions? Who wants to go first?
Hello.
Christina, you.
I'll go. You called out my name, Fernando. Right. Well, first of all, a huge thank you for having the EPPO here and part of this event. Thank you for having me personally on this panel as well. And Adelina, pleasure to be on your side and just across the street from you as well in this session. An introduction of myself. So my name is Christina Gulaki. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're based, to our audience. So I'm here today representing the EPPO, the European Public Prosecutor Office. And in fact, a fun fact, I joined myself the European Public Prosecutor's Office, EPPO, only 3 months ago in March. So hopefully that might make me also somewhat relatable to the audience and those that might aspire to join us or any other EU body, agency or institution for the professional career. A bit of a personal background. I am originally Greek. I did grow up in Luxembourg. I was actually born and raised in Luxembourg to Greek parents. Later on, I studied in the United Kingdom, and then studies turned into also my first professional experience in a separate field, and a career change, as well as post-Brexit interest in remaining within the Eurozone and within a country of the European Union. I actually repatriated to Luxembourg, where I pursued a career in the private sector in the field of HR. And later on, as I said, about 3 months ago, I joined the EPPO as part of my first step in my EU professional journey. What I do at the EPPO, I'm an HR officer in talent acquisition. In fact, we're a very new body. We're a growing body. We've been operational for about 4 years, and I'll say a bit more about what we do and who we are over the course of the conversation. But in fact, I am the one recruiter in the EPPO, which perhaps also that puts also a face to a process. Should any member of the audience express that interest or show motivation in knowing more about our work, or having submitted an application, or even being on one of our reserve lists, hopefully that helps also to know that I've recently joined to support in this process. I'm going to pause here. I'm sure there's going to be more leading questions as well, and hand over also to Adelina for her own introduction.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Fernando. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me today and for being a very dynamic audience. What I see, the chat keeps coming in. I'm Adelina Demian. I work in the Court of Justice of the EU. I'm an official. I'm Romanian by nationality, but I must admit I've only worked outside my country since my professional experience. I wanted to share with you a bit about my background, and of course we'll have obviously the chance to speak more about opportunities at the court and, you know, answer to some of your questions. So as many of you have done or in the process of, I've applied after I finished my university degree in Romania to any and every possible traineeship really available in all of the EU institutions. And lucky or not, I'm not sure, I got into one at the European Parliament in Luxembourg. So it was my very first experience. It was already 15 years ago. So time flies very quickly when you work on something that you like and that you enjoy. I've been doing the first traineeship in Luxembourg in the Parliament in HR, and I've continued afterwards to another one at Europol in the Netherlands. So if any colleague from Europol are around, hello. I've then moved on to European Investment Bank in Luxembourg, and then I was fed up of doing a traineeship. I really wanted my first time job, of course, as many of you, I think, you know, because, you know, we all want to learn, but at some point we have our professional lives that we want to jumpstart. And I've joined what it was a startup at the time, the European Union Agency for Asylum, at the moment in Malta. So I've kind of moved through Europe a bit from north to south and vice versa. And what really attracted me was that it was a new body, a new office at the time, now an agency. And what was really nice, it was, you know, on an island. I was 24, you know, you had everything that you wanted to learn in front of you. And basically, you know, you're invited to do, you know, whatever comes, it was put on the table. So it was a really great opportunity. I cannot highlight the best opportunity to start your career in such an environment. Later on, I got married, I started my family. So let's say that I've had some negotiation on what my position will be and which country I will stay in going forward. private. So my husband wanted a job in the UK because he left his job to move with me to Malta. So, you know, it was a bit of a payback time. So I've moved to the UK. I've worked in the private, and it was really great as well because I've still had the opportunity to work closely to the institutions. It was an international development company. So I've also have had the chance to, you know, encompass, you know, private and public, you know, in my HR experience. And one day I have my husband that just said, well, what would be the country that would both be happy to, there's a position in Luxembourg that I would like to apply, at which point I was like, oh God, no. But, you know, like a very good wife that I was at the time, I said, you know, apply. I worked in the institutions, you know, it's not like the first position that you will get, you will necessarily, you know, also get an offer. So, you know, not being a very encouraging wife, I've still tried to prepare him the best I could, but I was also a bit frustrated because it was the first position that he applied to. He worked for an international organization and he got it. So I was like a bit, how to say, not very happy in a sense, because that was not my experience, so to speak. I've had, you know, several interviews that I had to go through, multiple competition and so on and so forth. So I really understand when all of you in the audience are asking about various experiences and what's the best practice to go through. The thing is, like, there's no really one way fits all. It really depends on your profile, on, you know, your background, on where you are in life and what's happening around you and who are the other candidates that you're competing with. There's so many variables that we can't even know, even if we are in HR. And after some time, I came back to Luxembourg. I've been here in the past 6 years. I first worked for the Commission and I've transferred to the Court of Justice last year in September. So I would be really happy, as Christina was saying, that to connect with you, because I've been not very long ago through the process myself, although being an official gives certain benefits. We'll talk about that as well. So I'm really looking forward to speaking to many of you. At the position at the court at the moment, I'm working in talent selection. So obviously we're dealing with a number of publications on vacancies for officials. As you know, as opposed to other organizations, we are recruiting mostly officials. Hans Kuhn was here and was telling us a little bit about competitions in Luxembourg that we look forward. And of course, I'm here to, you know, share my experience, answer your question, and tell you and encourage you as well to apply not only to the court where we would welcome you, but to any other EU body. We're here, all of us, you know, in the Shaping Europe Together. So I look forward to chatting. So back to you, Fernando, for the next bunch of questions.
I know. I just didn't get it to unmute it. It was too quick. Thank you so much for your questions. I'm seeing them coming up. There's some interesting questions. I'm going to try and structure this session so that we can break it down in 3 main sections. The first one is about finding the jobs. Where are they? Where they get advertised? You know, how to apply. The second one is, once you apply, what happens? You know, what are the likely steps that can happen afterwards? And then I'd like to leave my speakers with what they've known now, because they were in the earlier sessions, in what are my curveballs. So I'm not going to tell them the questions I prepared for them. They're going to be the ones that leaves them a little bit going like, oh, I didn't think about that one. So you'll get you know, all of you here, a real insight as to what it is that to actually deal with real people. These are not obscure institutions. They're just very big institutions. That's all. It's like a big companies, like you work at Amazon. You're likely, if you meet people beyond your floor. So without further ado, I'd like to actually weave into one of the points that Adelina made. Is you mentioned that you recruit officials. What do you recruit? What are the types of contracts you recruit? What can people expect in terms of, you know, career status? Who can apply? And maybe pick up on a couple of points here, address nationality and age at the same time that I'm seeing coming through. Who wants to take this first? Well, Christina, your mic is off, so it's going to be you.
My mic is off. Absolutely, more than happy. Well,
Great.
unlike the Court of Justice that is also present here, we're in fact a new institution, a new body of the EU, and in fact we do not hire directly from EPSO competitions. It is not amongst our types of contracts that we offer to hire permanent officials. So that is perhaps a detail to be aware of about the EPPO. But what do we offer? Well, the type of contracts that we do offer are temporary agents and contract agents directly employed by the EPPO. Back to the temporary agents, we offer administrator as well as assistant positions across all grades of the spectrums, as well as contract agents in the FG groups 3 and 4 predominantly. The length of our contract starts with 3 years with a possibility of renewal. Perhaps a very attractive point, and I won't lie, something that was particularly attractive to me at the point that I actually entered the EPPO as an element of also retention and admiration for the organization and the work that is also being driven through our staff delegation internally. When I applied for this position last summer, on my vacancy notice, it stated that it was a 3-year contract followed by the possibility of a renewal of another 3 years, followed by the possibility of another renewal that does lead in an indefinite contract. In fact, in recent months, the staff delegation have managed to enhance even those kind of working conditions for employees of the EPPO, and there is the possibility of an indefinite contract being offered upon the first renewal. So to put it in simple words, a 3-year temporary agent contract or contract agent contract, and upon the first renewal, the prospect of an indefinite employment at the EPPO. As well as obviously interagency transfer opportunities as part of, or of course, internal, firstly, opportunities in order to continue growing the career. Maybe to go a bit more into the niche elements or the type of profiles that we're looking for, I'm just going to take it a step back. So maybe for those, I keep saying we're a new body, an independent body of the European institution. What do we do actually? Well, the European Public Prosecutors is here to protect the EU taxpayers' money. And I think all of us, including us at the panel, our audience, I think money matters for us. And that's also what makes it for us at the EPPO, see our job as one that is extremely important. The EPPO has basically the power of investigating, prosecuting, and ultimately the goal is to bring to judgment any crimes, any financial crimes that are made and threatening the EU financial interest, the EU budget. Okay, so to put in simple words, our mandate and our mission. So the types of profiles, indeed, I'm part of a judicial cluster, and that's been a very, very good call when we think about actually the fact that we investigate and prosecute crimes, financial crimes, by means of criminal law. So indeed, we are very interested in legal profiles, and we do hire under job titles of legal officers, legal assistants, senior legal support officers, but actually the institution is being supported by a diverse set of profiles. This will include very much within the operational side as well. These would include the financial investigators, policy officers, but then an organization doesn't also drive itself without the support of the administration side. I'm here as part of the HR unit. Of course, there's finance and procurement. There's administrative support across different areas. But at the EPPO, because of also the very, very high level of sensitivity of the data linked to the cases that we do investigate, that our prosecutors, delegate prosecutors prosecute, in fact, security, cybersecurity, data protection are extremely vital services that contribute to our mission. I also want to address the communications team, not just being really part of the backbone of the organization. It's a very, very active sector within the EPPO, but I also want to link them also to recruitment at the EPPO. They're very strong partners of ours in advertising, promoting our vacancy notices, and I really encourage individuals to be engaged with us via our LinkedIn page, via social media platforms. Look for the European Public Prosecutor's Office. Our communications team is really fantastic at promoting further those opportunities, because I have been a candidate myself, and though maybe a quick tip is that for the organizations that I was following and I was very interested in vacancies, I'd had marked them on the homepage of my mobile phone, and pretty much I was getting this reminder every week to just go back and open that webpage and follow and proactively seek what open opportunities there were there. I actually found that LinkedIn especially was almost serving on a silver platter those opportunities for me, and was reminding me without having to take that proactive look on opening a website and looking for vacancies or career pages and those opportunities. I'm going to close with also offering traineeship opportunities. At the moment, we have traineeship calls being advertised on our website, and for the time being, the deadline for applications is on the 23rd of June. And we do not just hire legal trainees. We've got 2 positions open for legal trainees within our legal services, starting in September. But at the same time, we're looking for a trainee in our data protection office, in our communication sector, in our digital services, and procurement team within the finance and procurement sector as well. I'm going to pause there and happy to take any follow-up questions as well.
Thank you so much, Christina. Can I have comments from every one of you? You know, this is a curveball. It doesn't look like Christina has done this for the first time, right? She does. Go on.
For the EPPO specifically, yes.
There you are. There we are. We're getting the thank you. We're sharing the love. Adelina, I'm going to ask
over to you.
And I'd like you to elaborate a little bit as we gently migrate to the next phase of the questions. Working conditions, we've got the types of contracts, but you know, hybrid conditions, work-life balance, all those sort of things people consider when applying for jobs. From your perspective.
Okay.
I will. I'm particularly interested in that one.
I'll try to be concise because we have many to talk about. In terms of jobs, obviously we recruit mainly officials, so what we call permanent contracts, you know, with a life employment situation, so to speak, which comes at the end with a nice retirement pension that I'm already jumping at benefits. Where do we recruit these people from? These are the main bunch of people that we recruit from EPSO reserve list, but also internal competition that the court organizes. Apart from, let's say, the majority of our staff that are officials, some of you may know the court has a sort of a specific way of work. It has inside 2 jurisdictions in the same institution. There's what we call the court and the general court. For the French speaker, cour et tribunal, just to make stuff a bit more complicated. And with these 2 jurisdictions that are our core processes, really, where the law is decided upon, they are temporary agents, and they have a sort of a specific temporary agent let's say duration, because they are linked to the mandate of the judge. So every 3 years, judges are appointed to the court or to the general court. You know a little bit about the institution, those that came to the cluster, that, you know, we basically, where national states do not know how to apply EU law, those cases come at the court or the tribunal, depending on, you know, the type of procedure. And for the cabinet of the members, so where the judges are, we have in the court 1 judge per EU member state, in the general court 2 judges per member state. So each of the cabinet is filled with temporary agents linked to the mandate of the judge. But of course, the mandate may be renewed, or people could move in another cabinet. So these, let's say, temporary agent contracts can turn into 10, 15 years employment with the court, to put it mildly. We hire a lot of lawyers, of course, but that's not just what we're looking for. Obviously, a lot of legal backgrounds go on the corridors of the court, because we have also the library directorate, where we employ, you know, people that work not only on specific jurisprudence that we publish, but also on matters related to the library. So really librarians or archivists. Of course, we have all of the support functions as an institution, me working in HR, together with what we have, finance, procurement, building administration. As you know, we have a bit of a state-of-the-art, to speak about benefits, building in Luxembourg. And I think, you know, for those that have seen it or have participated, you can also have a virtual visit. We really have like state-of-the-art facilities with a gym inside, obviously a couple of canteens, an a la carte restaurant, and, you know, and great prices, so to speak. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about are lawyer linguists. Lawyer linguists are specialized translators that translate legal text. So as you know, the language of the court is French. We obviously, all of the judges work into their own national language to a certain extent. Then they discuss in between them in French, and all of the publications that we have are translated from French to all of the member states, or vice versa, depending on the level of on the national language that was chosen for the procedure. As you know, or you will know very soon, anyone that brings a matter to the court can do it in the national language. So you're not obliged to speak another language. Hence, we do all of the work for you basically before we give you back the answer, which means that we employ a certain amount of translators. We have more than 200 lawyer linguists that translate on all of combination of languages. We have interpreters who do that live in front of the judges. And we have about 346, if I'm not wrong, combination of languages, because some languages don't go just from Romanian to English. They may go Romanian, Italian, Italian, English, and vice versa, or so on. What we're looking for as well in terms of positions are, of course, financial matters. Why? Because, you know, we all deal with that in the backyard of our institution. We obviously have a lot of innovation lab, what we call it. So cybersecurity, so the IT technology, we're trying really to bring it to another level. Of course, we are bound by certain regulations and we have a certain way of work. We are a court, of the European Union. So we have certain elements that we need to respect, but we are looking into really having everything, most of the stuff with artificial intelligence improved and be at the service of the institution and of the citizens, of course. Now, in terms of benefit, apart from a basic salary that is public online, where we recruit temporary agents in the court or the tribunal, and as well officials in the general services, how we call them, be them Director General for Translation, the administration part, or building administration, or the library. All these salaries are public, so they can be at the level of ADs or administrator or assistant. Where a caveat or specificity of the court is that where on a publication we cannot find officials, we are looking at any other candidates that have manifested interest, with the possibility to taking over then a temporary agent position for a limited duration. The limited duration is 6 years, bound by the regulation, until, you know, this post becomes again vacant, and maybe meanwhile certain competitions or certain lists or the reserve lists are being available, and we can recruit from there. Now, basic salary is one thing. The novelty of this year is what is called a housing allowance for Luxembourg. Why? Because, and I will speak for Christina, if I may, a bit here, because all of us that are in Luxembourg have put together forces into trying to deal with what many people complain, and we as well, ourselves, of the high prices in Luxembourg. Nothing new on the market, this thing still continues. So we've put together a housing allowance, which is an allowance for a limited duration, and it goes up until AST 5 as a level, or AD 5. I think it's step 4, if I'm not wrong, or contract agents up to a certain extent, in order really to help those people that are looking forward and have the right competition, and we look forward to get them, but their only inconvenience is really that prices are astronomous sometimes in Luxembourg. We have a great, so to say, work and life balance, but of course, you know, we need to accommodate for certain minuses that are in the private life. Now, I was touching upon briefly work-life balance, and I want you to say that apart from what I've said of the basic salary, there are certain other allowances that come with it. Some of you may know, because I'm sure you're kind of friends of the EU somewhere, so have been research a little bit about what it is we offer. So if you have a family, and I will just, there's a lot of if and buts in my speech now in front of you, but obviously it really depends on the situation of the person. So what happens after you can apply? So you're on a reserve list, there's a position available at the court, you send your CV, you say you're a laureate, or you're not a laureate, and you get a temporary agent position, because this is how, you know, the situation was at the time. No officials were present, and you start at the court. What happens? We have a service called entry into service, as simple as that, in order to help you. Why? Because for every individual, the family situation matters. So where we take the person and we ask, you know, are you married? Do you have family? Where are you based exactly? Have you lived in Luxembourg before? Why? Because all of this could translate into financial entitlement. So for example, if you've never lived in Luxembourg, or if you haven't worked in the past 5 years and 6 months before joining the institution, and you don't have the nationality of Luxembourg, you can get an expatriation allowance. Why I'm mentioning this one? Because it's 60% of your basic salary, so it's quite a jump, so to speak, depending on the salary. And then there are certain allowances for families. So if you're married and you have children, and these children are in school, for example, you can get what we call dependent child allowance. So this is a sort of allowance to help you, bring up your child, or there is an education allowance, or the European schools, in order for you to be able to pay for the studies of your child. The European school, we have 2 in Luxembourg. There's one in Kirchberg, one in Mamer, where all of the kids of all of the officials and temporary agents or statutory staff of the institutions can go for free. And I will highlight this. And they have as well state-of-the-art facilities, especially in the European School 2, which is brand new, a couple of years done. It's really, nice and shiny still. And then apart from that, we have like great packages for leave as well. Of course, one would say, well, I've worked in Luxembourg. There's also like a number of public holidays that are also done in the private. True, but let me put it this way. I think the most important part is during Christmas and during Easter for most of the, colleagues, we're closed. So before Christmas up until after New Year's Eve, some of the public holidays, these are on top of what you would normally get in the private. There are a lot of other benefits that I may speak about, but I think, maybe we can jump into some of the other questions that are. Remind me, Fernando, did I miss one? Because as I'm telling you, we have lots of benefits that I could speak about today long.
Don't do that. You're going to be inundated by applications. I mean, some of the questions are quite interesting. I'm just going to say to any of you that are wondering how much time is it going to take, yes, like competitions, there's competition here for attention. You need to queue up. You need to follow the pattern. Coffee corners are answered by blocks of people. Each coffee corner may have a different size room depending on the estimated audience. They will get processed. And for chat booth, people can process 2 conversations at a time, and there's more than 1 recruiter. So you get a broad estimate of the time it takes for the conversation to be there. That's why we suggested at the beginning that you queue up as soon as possible. Put the speakers on. It will ping when it's your turn. Don't be staring at the screen. There's no point in doing so. The system will call you. Now, let me return to this. Thank you so much for this. Frankly, Christina, can I have a job? Adelina, I'll put my application as well very soon, I'll get married just to have the allowance. What the hell? Tell me about applications. Tell me about the profile. There's been a lot of questions about ages, about experience, about relocation. What can you tell us about those questions that a lot of people are asking, is do I even get to the front door?
Would you like me to start perhaps on that one?
Let's go. Let's give it a little to recover.
How to get to the EPPO's front door. For starters, I referenced that a bit earlier. Monitor our website. All of our vacancy notices, they are posted directly on the website, on our EPPO careers, on the careers tab of our EPPO webpage. It does take, as I said earlier, an element of proactive seeking and proactivity on the side of the candidates. And that's why I praised earlier also the work of our communications team in making ourselves seen and heard also on social media. Now, perhaps without derailing or deviating, just to perhaps add to this question, what would be the candidate journey? You see a vacancy notice that interests you. You review the eligibility criteria, which is key. You review the essential and advantageous, as well as the interpersonal criteria that we do list in every single vacancy notice, specifically for the position that you hopefully are interested in. And what's the next step? Review that application, or not application form, review both the application form and the vacancy notice as thoroughly as you can. Spend time in reviewing what is it that we have stated as an essential and an advantageous criteria, because this is our compass in order to do a first assessment of predicting whether the individual applying has the soft skills, the hard skills, prior proven experience, the qualifications in order to deliver the work that is vacant and is being advertised. So start by becoming familiar with the vacancy notice. And in the application form, in fact, we are a body that at this point in time, with our current recruiting process, we do not request CVs. So all the application form will include also a timeline of your professional experience, which acts as a substitute to the traditional CV applications. But what I see as one of the most important sections of our application form as a recruiter is the candidate's written narrative around the essential and advantageous criteria. So if you ever take a look at an EPPO application form, we ask candidates for every application, for every expressing interest in any position, to write a summary or a narrative up to 200 words long. And there is a word indication there, and I'm underlining that as well as a recruiter taking a look at these applications alongside a very competent selection board as well. But in that narrative, take the time to summarize your experience, trying to convince around the specific essential criterion that you're being asked to summarize how you have demonstrated in your past professional experience. Take the time really to thoroughly explain and tell us how is it that you're meeting each specific criterion. We ask for those summaries for each single one of the essential criteria for the position, as well as for the advantageous criteria, not for the interpersonal criteria, as these are assessed at the next step of the recruiting process. Now, when applications come through our door, there's a first eligibility check against, very much as anyone would expect, and probably many participants of the audience have already heard throughout today's event, we're looking at the individuals having active citizenship of one of the EU member states. We're looking for individuals whose countries of origin require having completed military service to have committed and completed that. We are looking at competence and fluency in English being the working language of the EPPO, as well as a second EU language. And as well, when it comes also to the qualifications, depending on the type of position and the function group that the concerned position level. So once the eligibility check is completed, the applications are then screened by recruitment as well by a selection board that is composed in such way that it represents the EPPO as an organization. It represents the hiring unit, so it could be either a head of unit, a head of sector, or any member of the unit deemed to be the right person to chair the selection board. The chair is accompanied by another member of the EPPO. That could be someone that brings a subject matter expert in the field, but from another unit or not with a direct reporting line to the chair of the board, also to minimize either biases or to ensure equity and an element of objectivity as well in our judgment, a sound judgment. And the third member is either a member of our staff delegation or a member appointed by our staff delegation. So applications are screened, they are scored. Top performing, or candidates, if I could say, who receive the highest points are actually shortlisted and invited to the next stage. The next step is an interview, an oral interview with the selection board that I described, followed or preceded by a written test. Think of the written test as being more of the technical assessment associated to the job for which you have applied expressed interest. Once this process is completed, which in fact I will highlight that we invite candidates to participate to their oral interview and written test happening always on the same day on site. We invite individuals to see, visit us, our EPPO grounds, and meet the selection board also in person. We consider that a very important step of also building a relationship with our applicants and candidates. Successful candidates who are successfully completing that process step prior to are informed, receive an update about whether they will be retained if successful in our reserve list. And finally, those from our reserve list that will be selected in order to fill a vacancy may or may not be invited for a follow-up interview, again with a relevant member of the hiring unit. So application, interview, written test on the same day on site, followed by a follow-up interview upon retention of the reserve list and selection in order to fill the vacancy. I'm going to pause here just in case there's any follow-up questions, or Adelina would like maybe to describe how that looks, differs, or is similar at the Court of Justice, or Fernando.
Well, I was going to say, how do I follow from that? How do I introduce this to Adelina to actually follow from that? And I thought, I'm going to take the curveball approach. Great. They know what it is. Guys, you know what you're getting yourselves into. I'm going to ask Adelina, within on the same question, and it's short because we're beginning to run, and at the same time, tell us what is measured for you in terms of attitude versus aptitude, what the person knows and what the person is, which is something that's been coming up in some of the other clusters. You know, you remember that matrix: competent, unbearable, not bearable, competent, unbearable. So, you know, aptitude and attitude. And the other one that comes on board when I listen to Christina is, how long is this process going to take for you at the court and the panel? You know,
So I will start with the first one, and I think it's a super good question, although I must admit it might be a difficult one. Why? Because we are humans and we designed to compare other CVs, and we are designed, and this is how our processes are done, right? You are designed to compare competence and aptitudes that are written at the first instance. We just see them as recruiter on paper. We really have no idea what's behind that. And I think the most important part for the court is that you need to have the ability to learn, and that is what comes first. So I think if you have good aptitudes, that comes first, as opposed to technical competencies where you're a genius. I think there are certain elements of personality and technicalities that you can always learn throughout your life. I mean, let's be honest, we sometimes, even as officials, we move jobs, we go from HR to finance. We don't really necessarily have the same technical abilities, but we are prepared in a way to be able to grasp other jobs as well in life. This is what entirely the idea of being an official is. You know, you're not stuck in the same job for 40 years or 25 years, or depending how many years you have in front of you. So having that ability to be, you know, agile, to be able to adapt, to be able to come up with, you know, novelty in your work life as well, not only professionally but also personally. So I think we're looking at definitely having the right personality and the right general abilities and aptitudes to do the job, and then technical competencies. We have what we call learning and development for life, you know, long life learning in every institution, I think, and I'm not necessarily speaking for the court here. We have everything we need in order to prepare you to do your job better. You just need to be prepared for it and wish to do it, basically. And obviously, I was so excited about the first one that, the second one was about the duration, of course. The duration, it can vary from 2 to 3 months up to 6 months. I know it's not encouraging to a certain extent. What I'm saying here is just that it really depends. If there is a large process, so obviously I'm not speaking about competitions. I will leave this to EPSOs. Why? Because, you know, they are doing the competition. But once you're on that reserve list and there's a vacancy at the court and you apply for it, I would say it would be reasonable to wait 2 or 3 months. It could be a bit less, it could be a bit more. Don't stress, don't panic. No need to send 3 follow-up emails. You will always get a reply, be it positive or negative, depending how the situation is.
Fantastic, thank you. Christina, how long does it take to go through all the hoops and, you know, light on fire and jump through the minefield and then go to the left, and then how long does it take?
I would probably say something similar to what Adelina laid out. I keep going back to saying we're a new body. I'm a recruiter. A lot of our processes are quite manual still to this day, which creates a very interesting environment to innovate. So anything between 3 to 6 months, we do strive, and it's actually one of my main goals and focus to see how we can optimize and ameliorate also the candidate experience. We've all been, or many of us have been candidates in similar situations in the past at some point. And I think us as recruiters, I think it's one of our utmost goals to try to do our best to accelerate the process where possible. But that is also within the constraints of certain administrative processes that also cannot be cut short or cannot be bypassed, looking at our commitment and the nature of our work working in public administration. So I would say up to a maximum of 6 months, but we do strive to do that shorter.
Thank you. We've got just a couple more minutes. I know there's lots of great questions from you guys here, and I appreciate it. I'm thanking you on the name of everybody. You will get a chance to ask them again in the coffee corner. You will get again a chance to talk to them in the chat booth. I like to focus on the one thing that I picked up from here is that first hurdle of eligibility. I'm not going to even throw a curveball. I will one afterwards. eligibility, make or break. Can you walk about some of the criteria that tend to be the eligibility, the yes, no, the degree, the, is age one of them, is language is one of them? What else do you normally have as a make or break? And should people bother to even apply if they don't meet that?
Shall I start, or just because I was speaking before?
2
so
minutes.
eligibility means you need to have. If you don't have this, don't bother. Let me put it mildly. So you'll need to have 2 EU languages, any of your choice. For the EPPO, if I may say, you need English. For the court, you most likely need some French to a certain extent. You don't have any age restriction. No start or end date, no minimum or maximum that I've seen in the chat. And in terms of years of experience, where depending on the position you're applying for, there's a certain number of years within our statute. So if it says you need to have a diploma that you graduated with 3 years university, you need to have the 3 years university. If you don't have the university, don't lose time. Where we speak about a selection or advantages, this is sometimes nice to have. So you don't have everything, give it a go. You never know what the other candidates would have, and you might actually be one of the best, although you're missing 2 of the advantages criteria. It's a bit difficult to assess without knowing this in advance, and I would always suggest to give it a try.
Thank you. Christina?
I'm fully covered. It was a perfect answer, and I really appreciate the differentiation between eligibility or basic eligibility requirements, as we often refer to them, and the difference with the essential criteria, which indeed this is almost a predictor of job performance, but then the advantageous criteria being or the preferred qualifications, quite often referred to it as well as the nice to have. And indeed, do try, even if you think you don't quite have it or you wouldn't get the full points if someone was to assess your application. But Adelina, thank you. You've spoken for both of us here.
I've just seen a question coming on a very technical legal point of view. This is not the forum where you're going to be getting an answer from us. We'll take the 5th. Mais comme je parle français, je crois que je vais pouvoir faire les deux. Je vais pouvoir me présenter aux 2 organisations, comme ça il n'y aura pas de problème. Guys, it's been absolutely great. We're going to close this session. We've got 9 minutes. So I'm going to leave you with a curveball. 3 words that defines your experience at your organization and 1 sentence to inspire people to apply. 3 words that defines your experience at your organization.
Shall I try? So define my experience. Dynamic. Given a lot of responsibility, so kind of like free hand to do a lot of stuff. And a 3rd one would be state-of-the-art facilities. It catches your eyes when you get into the court. I mean, sorry, it's just blindly there in front of you. And then the sentence that would inspire the colleagues would be, bring your innovation to the court, because the court is here to receive you and put your thoughts into practice.
Great. Christina?
Okay, I'm going to start with courage. I think the European chief prosecutors as well probably most respected or hugely recognized the value of the EPPO as well. And I personally as well, since before joining, I have immense admiration about the work that our European prosecutors, chief prosecutors, and anyone supporting the mission of the EPPO carries. It's very unique type of work. It's the first time really in history that a EU or public administration has such power to really investigate and prosecute across borders financial crimes. So it takes courage. It takes being bold to go after criminals. So courage is probably my number 1 as an EPPO member. Innovative, I will follow. There's so much opportunity from the moment that one joins the EPPO to bring their ideas, to steer the direction that the organization is going, to either simplify processes or really bring new processes in place. So innovation is a big one. Bring your ideas. And in fact, it is an environment that I can guarantee that they're welcome. And I see that with the position I have in recruitment as well, and the trust I've been given. The last one would be resilience. And that's also jumping quickly also in the candidate's shoes. Honest fact about myself, this was not the first application I submitted to the EPPO, the position that I did get. And that's a conversation I noticed also in interacting with other candidates as well as with colleagues who are now at the EPPO. So have resilience as someone interested in the work of the EPPO, but also keep that resilience because it is also needed to keep going every day and keep pushing for the work that we do collectively and collaboratively. So courage, innovation, and resilience.
Fantastic. I have to thank both of you for this session. As they say, don't do to the others as you wouldn't do to yourself. So for me, my 3 words are fun, dynamic, and grateful to you all, everybody that's been in this audience. I'm really, really grateful. It's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed this. I know some of you are asking a lot of things. I appreciate the feedback you're giving. Love it.
Thank you.
We're going to end this session now. I'm going to keep my 2 speakers for 30 seconds, and then we're going to go and chat booths. Thank you very much, guys. We love the comments. It's been great hosting the 420. People are already leaving to the chat booths, but we reached 535. Bye, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.